15 degrees, you can see your breath. Out here in the lake effect, breaking tables like it's poetry. Where else would you rather be? Pinto, Ron, Elvis, and the lay poncho. The members that you need to know. 'Cause once you out here now, your family. Where else would you rather be? Where else would you rather be?
Welcome into the Nickel City Crew. I am your host, Rob Crippen. Please like us on Facebook and follow us on Instagram and Twitter at Nickel City Crew. This episode, along with all of our episodes, are presented by Crippen Legacy Entertainment here on Spreaker and StreamYard. We're so glad that you're joining us for some of your Buffalo Bills and NFL content again today. And as always, these are my Bills thoughts said out loud.
It's a vibe so ridiculous. Since 12 plus 83 was 6. The shout rocking like a symphony. Where else would you rather be?
All right, let's get straight to it. Really excited for tonight's episode. We were talking last week about the ending of season 5 and what a blast it's been. And it really wouldn't be any fun without all of you. So as we start the show, I just wanted to, again, send out my gratitude and my appreciation for the fans. I've met so many Nickel City Crew fans on Twitter and Instagram and Facebook. And I really appreciate the outpouring because you guys are why I do what I do. And I know I can speak for my co-host the same way. It's just I started this thing 5 years ago, right before Perfection in the Park, the perfect game against the Patriots. And I just wanted to get my Bills thoughts out there. I talk to myself all the time about the Bills in my head, what I wanted to see them do and different things like that, and changes I would make and different things. And I decided to just stop being scared, get my voice out there and just, go head on and, put it out there into the ether. And just the outpouring and the fan base has just grown, to be honest. And I'm really excited for the future. I'm excited for season 6. And let's put a bow on it. Tonight, joining me, as always, my co-host, Riding Shotgun. Check him out on Instagram and Twitter at Adam Rupsick. That's RUPCZYK. Adam Dump Truck Rupsick. Holla at the crew. DT, what's good, man? I mean, I'm excited, man. Yeah, let's put a bow on this thing, man. I'm excited, man. Season 5.
Can't believe season 5 coming to an end. It feels like yesterday when we started and you brought me on a few episodes in and Perfection in the Park and here we are. So happy to be here as always. Happy Friday, Nickel City. Rob, good to see you, man. We're out here, dude. It's Jabricka Ferguson across the whole East Coast. Jabricka Ferguson. I mean, it is nipply out here, and I know you're dealing with it down in Charlotte, and I know you guys aren't equipped to handle it. I mean, we're equipped up here, and it's still brutal. So I can only imagine what's going on down there. Stay safe out there, and but the kids seeing something they're not used to with the snow, and here we are, Friday night, putting a bow on it. Getting ready to go for another off-season, new chapter in the Buffalo Bills, and it'll be a new chapter with us at Nickel City Crew as well. So let's rock and roll, baby. Friday night vibes.
Yeah, let's rock and roll. And shout out to I-86 Network, my boy Tom and Bobby over there as well. We appreciate the love from them and have an opportunity to simulcast. Well, DT, they finally did it. They came to a resolution. The Buffalo Bills have decided on who they want to be their new leader. Joe Brady was picked as the new head coach of the Buffalo Bills on, a couple days ago. And DT, I wanted to get your initial reactions of it and what you thought about it, because I know that, the cynic in me can always come out and can always kind of, put a glass half empty twist on anything. And after the press conference, I know that these are built for that and they're built to make you feel better. But I'll be honest, I felt a little bit better about it, but I wanted to get just your initial thoughts of leading up to it, the news, and what your takeaways are of it after the press conference the other day. Because for me, I know that I was looking for an offensive sided coach. You already knew that. I was not looking for a DC. Didn't really care about age or anything like that, but I wanted somebody that was going to have some fresh approach. And I think that you can look at it both ways because of the fact of who they hired. But I wanted to get your thoughts on it first, because I've got some thoughts on it as well, obviously, but I wanted to get yours first.
Yeah, well, last week, you said the press conference was made to make us feel better, and that's how they're constructed, right? And that's how they should have been. And
Yeah.
after last week,
Hmm.
we knew that that's not the case all the time, right? Because that sparked, poured gas on already a pretty big fire, of the Bills Mafia, and that press conference
Hmm.
just did it bad. I think this week it was definitely better. Brought people back a little bit. I still definitely am a little critical of some things about it and decisions and moving forward. But overall, Joe Brady coming in, another in-house situation. This is why I was so adamant last week that I thought not necessarily I would have been okay with it, but definitely thought they were bringing Dable back because this is just the MO of
Yeah.
of what Pagula does.
Hmm.
Lindy Ruff coming back to the Sabres, Kevin Adams staying 3 years longer than he should have. Jordan Boyer,
Hmm.
Gabe Davis, Bobby Babbage, and Joe Brady were both internal hires into their coordinator roles. And so it just
That's right.
seemed like that they were going to go somewhere in that direction. Joe Brady really wasn't even on my radar, to be honest. I thought if they were doing that type of vibe, they were going to go with somebody they knew like Dable, who had the head coaching experience, but familiar,
Hmm.
and bring him back into the building. So I'd
Hmm.
say definitely surprised at the hire. Got into again just that flowing fire of that was started last week and gas poured on it by Terry and Brandon, and then
Hmm.
kind of rolling into, oh, we're hiring Joe Brady, and that fire just that wasn't the water that to put out the fire. But now I think you had a little too much smoke inhalation. You take a break from fighting it, you go and get healthy again, and you're looking at it from afar, and I think we can piece it together a little more. I know everybody was real fired up this week, but a couple days later, press conference comes. I definitely am a lot more settled down, and we'll get into the specifics of it tonight. But Joe Brady coming in is it the 21st or the 22nd head coach? I think it's the
I think it's the
21st.
22nd. Oh, okay. Is
22nd,
it? Okay.
yes. Or maybe
You might
McDermott
be
was
right.
the
You might be
21st.
right.
Yeah, yeah. But either way,
Yeah.
a legacy of coaches, and he puts his name down, good or bad, coming up next. So we only have, what is it, till September, second week of September is only 9 months away. So, it's something we really got to worry about and be hasty about because we don't have a lot of time to dissect it. But all joking aside, Joe Brady's the next head ball coach. I was surprised. I knew they were going to do something familiar, but I didn't know they were going to go this familiar.
Yeah, I didn't either. It's funny that you said that he wasn't on your radar. I kind of, I forgot about him too a little bit just because of all the names that were brought up. And there was 9 coaching candidates. He was the first one to get the interview. And for me, I was kind of looking at it as, I was actually coming around to the fact that, maybe it was going to be that Udinsky kid or, you know what I mean? Or somebody that had no experience at all. And what's funny about it is that, Joe Brady doesn't have any experience as a head coach either. So, one of the things that I keep thinking about is that, well, everybody's first time was their first time eventually. At some point in time, it was their first time. So that was one of the things that started to calm me down. I think that it was
They
interesting
said that
because the
about a
fact
hundred
that,
times yesterday. They said that about a
yeah,
hundred times
and
yesterday.
it's,
You're not a head coach. You're not a head coaching experience until
yeah,
you're a head coach. Yeah, yeah.
yeah, and I understand where they're coming from with that and the logic behind it because obviously it's true. The thing about it for me, DT, was that I was worried that even not even a Dable, but I was worried that with Joe Brady specifically, that he was going to be more of an extension of being a yes man. You heard the word alignment used a couple times during that press conference, which we'll talk about. But I was more worried about the fact, well, is this guy being brought in to kind of just be, Bean's yes man to a certain degree, like more like along the lines that, well, McDermott was bitching about the roster. McDermott was, kind of leaving breadcrumbs in the media, pissing people off in the building. Are you going to come in here and just kind of follow what I do and follow what I'm saying and kind of just take what I give you, that type of thing? I think that it's a situation where it may not be that because you got to remember, these guys this is their job and what they do is going to be judged off of how they perform. So do you want to be in a situation where you're just going to be quiet if you don't agree with something, and Brady, to his credit, he spoke to it in the press conference and he said that, alignment doesn't mean that we always agree and different things like that. But I think that it's a situation where I'm still most worried about Bean and if he understands that the roster needs improvements. Sometimes I think that he tells us what what he thinks that we want to hear, or sometimes I think that he tells us things based off of ego. The WGR thing with the wide receivers and things like that, that's based on ego. Telling, Pagula that we've got a great roster, I think that's based on ego. He wants to show that he has value and that, well, it's not really the roster, it's the coaching staff. The biggest thing that I had a problem with the Brady hire was that, how can you tell me that you want a new voice, TT, when a guy that had his hand in the fuck ups is being promoted? And that's one of the things that it's going to be interesting to see how it plays out, because when you tell me you want a new voice, when you tell me that you're looking to go into a new direction, yes, he's different enough than McDermott. However, he was a part of these last 3 opportunities on offense, not getting it done at end of game situations in the playoffs. And they asked him about it, and he owned it, and he said that it's on me when the offense doesn't succeed in any form or fashion. And I agree with that. But there was a lot of stuff that was said that I thought that they wanted us to hear. So I'm still waiting for, I'm a game day type of fan. I want to see what happens. The proof is in the pudding. What are you going to do out there on the field? I think that he is different enough from McDermott that we should expect different things, but that kind of worries me still. It's the Bean part, and it's the Bean aspect. As long as Bean understands that this roster needs some work, as long as he understands that this wide receiver room needs help, then I'm okay. If he still wants to really believe that this is all hunky-dory, and Keon Coleman's getting ready to take his next step, which they, already got egg on their face last year, then that's going to be a problem for me.
Yeah, I think it's, I can see that theory of the yes man, right? Bring somebody in that's, super chipper and grateful, right? Like, I'm so grateful to be a head coach. Like, I will follow whatever vision, you need me to follow. And like, I will be at the meeting whenever you need me to be there. And there was kind of that bushy tail vibe to that press conference of like, it was, and I'm not saying you can't get up there and thank people or anything like that, but it was like he just like won a Grammy or something, right? And was like up there, like, I'd like thank the Academy and the Pagulas and like it, and which is, you like to see both sides of that. So I think maybe that could have been a factor, but also the point of, Brandon Beane has to be, privy to the fact that he now has the shortest leash, right? Like, you somehow flipped the deck and made, Terry Pagula believe that you had nothing to do with any issue with the whole organization. You get promoted from it and move forward. So now, like, I think a first-year head coach in Joe Brady, even if the worst-case scenario happens last year, he's not getting the clip. It's not like Pete Carroll coming into the Raiders and putting up such a horrific performance you had to fire him. Like, this dude really is going to be on a training wheel schedule next year, and if he doesn't do well, they're going to give him another year. But Brandon Beane is on a short leash now. Like, you got rid of Sean. If the same shit happens again, then boom, who's next? It goes to Brandon Beane. So I think he knows that as well. And, maybe they did want somebody, with alignment. And the weird thing about that in the press conference, when they said alignment, they kept pointing at each other. That was corny and weird, I thought. But, that's what it is. So I can see where bringing a yes man in, somebody bushy tailed, like they're just so happy to be there. You can really tell them whatever, and they're gonna agree, align, and move forward. But I also think Brandon Beane knows that his ass is on the line if this doesn't work out. So that being said, he had to put somebody in there he was confident in to save his ass too. And I think out of the 9, people, it sounded very extensive. It sounded very intense. I think they were looking for that. They stuck true to that CEO type of mentality they kept talking about and seeing the vision for it. And I think that's what got him the job, right? So I can see it both ways, but I also think Beane, has kind of proven he can be a little selfish. And in this case, he's going to be looking out for himself, and he's not going to bring somebody in that, is going to be, somebody that he doesn't trust to get it done, because if it doesn't get done, the finger goes right back at him real quick.
No, you're absolutely right about that, because it really is now a situation. We've named episodes like this before. Like, there's nowhere to hide for Beane, and I agree with that sentiment. I think that Pagula did not want to have to hire a new general manager and a head coach. I think that was going to be overwhelming for him, regardless of the presence of some of the guys in the building like Terrence Gray and Joe Shane, or Gain, Brian Gain. I don't think that he wanted to do it all by himself and wanted to be in a situation where he was hiring two different big time roles for his team. So this was easiest. You hit that proverbial playoff wall like he kept talking about, and this was an opportunity to go in a different direction. So I agree with you that I think that Bean is going to be running out of places to hide, and he's got to understand. And it's funny about Bean. The funny thing, and that's why I said what I said, is that I think he's a bullshitter. Like he's a good bullshitter. Like he tells us that, we don't need wide receivers. Everybody eats. And then he goes out after, week 5 or whatever, and he goes and trades for Amari Cooper. Then last year tells us, oh no, it's everybody eats. And we scored 30 points a game. He goes on WGR pumping his chest. And then what happens by the end of the year? Trade deadline, it's hey, I tried to trade for guys, these new GMs just don't want to make a trade. So I think that he realizes that the wide receiver room needs help. I think that he would be an idiot if he didn't have his finger on the pulse to see that Josh Allen needs more weapons that are reliable. The fact that you're throwing to Brandon Cooks down the stretch and McCole Hardman, who are not on this team, Elijah Moore is on the other team after you paid him. There's plenty of evidence that that Josh needs more help in respects to the wide receiver room and the pass catcher. So hopefully he gets it. Hopefully he swallows his pride. And that's regardless of what he tells us. I could give a shit what he tells us and how he wants to have that bravado and that ego. You better understand what your job is, and your job is to make sure that 17's life is as easy as possible coming into a pivotal year, because this is really the start of the back end of Josh Allen's career, the second act of his career, if you will. So it'll be important. Now, the reason that I named the episode the way that I did, DT, was because this dude, he's got the energy, and the best line of the press conference was him saying that he is the weather and that you're going to feel me every single day. And I liked it. You know what I mean? I like the fact that he's got this attitude and this infectious energy that it's not phony. I will say that. I'll put my hand up right now because I know how to call out a bullshitter. I do not think that he's being phony at all. I think he really believes the things that he's saying, and he wants to bring in a culture where I think that it's going to be a little bit intense but looser at the same time. I don't know if that makes sense, but it was funny because what's his name? Alec Anderson kind of spoke to it. He said when he was talking yesterday, he was like, well, now we can walk around the facility and we don't have to have our asses, tight. You know what I mean? And I think that McDermott is such a stickler for, details, and he wants everything buttoned up. And I know that he got a little bit better with that towards the end of his tenure, but he was known for being a hard ass. And then you've got the Tyler Dunn piece and things like that, kind of highlighting some of those different tendencies that he has. I think that Joe Brady will bring a more relaxed atmosphere, but then still want to get results. And I think that that's a fine line that you've got to walk. He talked about it a couple times in his press conference, how I'm not the offensive coordinator anymore. I'm the head coach. I can't wait. He kind of went on Pat McAfee and said, I can't wait for Josh to throw a fucking pick so I can be, cheering with the defense and showing them how I'm on their side too. Yeah. And I think that that's going to be really important, is to kind of separate, OC from head coach. He's now CEO, like they keep talking about. He's now the runner of the franchise. He runs everything in respects to the football department. And I think it's going to be very important for him to get that message across quick and early, so that the guys on the defense knows that this guy's not just here to pander to Josh Allen. He's here to coach us, and he's going to coach us and have our backs. I think it's important.
Sure, and that's a great way to put it. Going to be looser but more intense, and I think that's exactly way. McDermott, very stoic, very even keeled, never too high, never too low. But like you said, the details and walking around with your asshole tight, whatever the case is. But this, with Joe Brady, Joe Brady on the fact of he's going to come out and be intense and get in your face, and he was saying he cusses and he goes in, and we're starting to get into that new level of before Sean McDermott. You look around the league and you see all these things happen, and there's a little bit of, I think, Bills Mafia. Definitely a part of me, not that I was screaming to get rid of Sean all the time, but the fact of a little jealousy on other teams getting those coaches around the league, right?
Sure,
the Dan Campbells in Detroit, you're coming in and it's a spectacle, and you're in the headlines because you're intense and the team loves you, and you're younger, and the guys like Mike McDaniel coming in where he fell off at the end. His shit got old. But
Liam Cohen last year with Jacksonville.
Yeah, exactly. That type of vibe, and it was that's that would be cool to have here one day, not just this old school kind of dark, boring vibe where it's yes, but that also vibe directly related to
what we
our
needed.
downfalls in our
Mhm.
seasons, right? Like,
Mhm.
yes, that gets you consistency, that gets you the 12 wins, that gets you into the playoffs. But then we got to the playoffs and it was still that same, that
Mhm.
same
Mhm.
line, right? There wasn't, okay, it's just another game. It's just another game. Like, no, like it's okay to get all pumped up for somebody on your schedule, like is a rivalry. Like it's okay to, not be so stoic and this and that. And then when you get to the playoffs,
I agree.
yes, you need to adapt. You need to maybe have energy where you didn't have energy to get that inch, we talked about it for 4 years now,
Mhm.
Rob. The game
We
of
have.
inches
We have.
and getting
Mhm.
burnt on that inch in these losses, like you might need that little extra energy to give that pop in that inch. So it's going to look completely different. I think it's something in the back of our heads. Maybe we weren't vocal about it, but all of us kind of wanted and we're jealous of around the league of like these other young coaches coming in and making like names for themselves with their energy.
Mhm.
And I think we're going to see that now with Joe Brady and the Buffalo Bills. So it's interesting. We don't know if it's going to work, right? That's our fear of it, of getting away from that detail and that plain line. Like if it's
Mhm.
too corny and too BS and it drops under it, oh well, then we would rather have the plain line and the details. But I think obviously it's not going to be reckless. I don't think. I think it's these
Mm.
as part of the continuity and being part. This dude was on the Sean McDermott tree. He learned a lot of things from
Right.
Sean McDermott the past 4 years. And what do you think
That's
he's going
true.
to do when he sits down at this head coaching table where he has no experience? Well, what do we do? Well, what have I learned from other head coaches in my
Yeah, he's
life?
gonna
Well,
draw. Mhm.
this is
He's
it.
gonna draw
So
from
I
them.
think
Mhm.
I think he's going to use that to settle himself down a little, but
I agree.
still have his own identity and mark on it. And that's why they hired him. I think at the end of the day, like because he is who he is. He isn't and so kind of contradicting what we said about being a yes man. Maybe Joe Brady has his own identity, but he's definitely going to pull from the stoic predecessors before him.
Yeah, I mean, he talked to you. You're right about that. He had talked about how he comes from the Sean Payton coaching tree. We know how much of a prick that Sean Payton is, but Sean Payton wins. He wins football games. He's won a Super Bowl. He's been successful. He's a great offensive mind. Minus that that decision to go for it on fourth down the other day that might have cost him a chance in the Super Bowl in that blizzard. But Sean Payton knows how to win football games. He's going to pull from Sean McDermott and some of the experiences that he had with him for sure. So I agree with you on that. I do like the fact because I'm unapologetically me, and I that resonates with me. Anybody that wants to say, "Hey, this is who I am," take me or leave me. You know what I mean? Like I'm always going to be drawn to people like that. So I actually like that about Joe Brady. I liked it in his press conference. Absolutely, you were talking about how he said I cuss. You know what I mean? It's different things like that. Then he immediately goes on McAfee, starts cussing. Like you know what I mean? Like I like that about him. Like just be you and the fact that he is himself, players can respect that. When you're inauthentic, when you are a phony, a fake, players see right through that. These are grown men, 53 of them in the locker room, plus practice squad. If you're trying to be somebody that you're not, that's how you lose the locker room. It's not from making tough decisions or cracking down on guys when they fuck up or anything like that. That's not what loses you the locker room. The losing locker room is when you pretend to be one way and then you want to be another way. When you want to be a softy and then you try to be a hard ass. That's what Mike McDaniel went through down in Miami because he couldn't control that locker room for a little while. And then you got Tyreek and Jalen going crazy, and then he's trying to hunker it down. Well, it doesn't work because we already know that you really don't give a shit about being on time to stuff. So you can't change your stripes. I think that Joe Brady is authentic. I think that he will be himself, and that's one of the things that I'm looking forward to before we go forward and transition. But last thing, DT, about that press conference was that when I heard him, kind of talking about his relationship with Josh, I thought that it was important, and I thought that any candidate was going to have to relay, how are you going to make Josh's life easier? We talked about it all the times with layup lines, and we've had those episodes where, and that's where I think that Brandon Beane is so important that he really, I hope he's bullshitting, that he understands that this wide receiver room ain't cutting it, because if you give Josh the weapons, I think that Joe Brady, he was asked one time, were you able to call games the way that you wanted to call games? And he kind of danced around it a little bit and said that, there's a certain way to win a game and we come up with a plan or whatever the case may be. I don't think that he necessarily wants to be the run heaviest team in the league. They asked Josh about it when Josh had his portion to the media right after that press conference. And he talked about, well, it's not like I want to be number one, but I also don't want to be number 32. There's a balance in there. There's a, the case may be. So I think that they both get it. I think that they understand, and maybe it wasn't that Sean McDermott was calling plays. I know that he wasn't, but maybe it wasn't that Sean was telling him ahead of time, you need to run the ball 45 times today, or whatever the case may be. But maybe it was just more implied with the game plan leading up to that week. Like, well, this team does, they got a great pass rush. We might want to run it more, where you got to kind of like, what your boss is really asking without saying it. So if you go rogue, then it kind of puts you in a bad light. Maybe now that he's free to run the offense, he's now the head coach, he's running everything. Maybe we might see a different type of offense. I really was interested to see what you thought about that, because that's been going around. That was my first tweet, was that, well, maybe we better all pray that he was just running McDermott's offense. And people are like, well, McDermott doesn't call plays and yada, yada. And I'm like, I know that. But like, anytime you're getting pressure from your boss, you kind of know, and you can feel it, whether it's said or it's unsaid. So I'm really looking forward to seeing if he gets a chance to kind of open this thing up. Yes, we were effective. Yes, we had effective offenses running the ball. I know that we put up points per game. All the analytic guys want to tell me about the number one in DVOA or EPA per play. I get it. You should not be paying $250 million to a quarterback to be the most run heaviest team in the league. You can get anybody to do that. You don't need Josh Allen to be the run heaviest team in the league. I think that they're going to get away from it just a little bit. You can still sprinkle James in, but he does not have to be the entire offense. I don't think so.
Yeah, you want to have wrinkles of it. You want to alleviate some pressure of 17 and have a run game to be able to go to if you need it. But the run game sets up a lot, as Josh said yesterday. The play action, your looks downfield, that's all needed by a good run game. I think it was a little different if I had to what's the word I'm looking for? If I had to conspire, the fact of like, it might not have been in the game plan of like, hey, we need you to run this many times this game. I think maybe it was more situational in-game stuff, right? And that showing Sean McDermott's true colors there of like the bend don't break and like play not to lose by a lot. And that kind of changed over the years, but there was still that tightness to him where we never got too far in either direction. And I think maybe in-game situationally, all right, we're coming into this drive. This needs to be a 12-play drive. This needs to be we need 7 minutes off the clock on this drive. Here we are. We can't stop him on D. So or whatever the case was. And Sean McDermott kind of just getting back to that tightness. And then, all right, Joe, this is what needs to happen on the next drive. And then Joe's like, well, I wanted to kind of do this, but okay, now we'll just got it. Got you. And so I think it might have been my guess would be, it'd be a little more like that, where it wasn't so much in the game plan, but in actual game time when Sean got kind of tight and like, okay, we can't fuck up and we can't, let big plays up against us and we can't, the offense got to stay on the field. So whatever. Yeah, let's rock a 8-minute drive here. I need 14 plays here. I need, and obviously if you hear that, you're not going, play action deep on the first play, right? You're gonna lull them to sleep and try to, concede into that strategy and get points out of it. But if either way, there was some regulation on this guy. There was Sean McDermott's the head coach, and I hope there's regulation on when Joe Brady's the head coach. I hope there's regulation on the rest of the staff from him. That's the point of being the head coach, where there is an answer, there is a hierarchy, and people have to answer to you. So I think there will be a little more looseness when it comes to Joe Brady there. But I also think he understands the gravity of the situation and knows he can't go, cowboy right out of the gate and just start running, all spread, all goes all the time either, right? So what we talked about earlier of him taking stuff from Sean and kind of that consistency and composure and, stoicness, but also adding his flair to it. So I definitely think there was regulation at some point, between Sean and Joe Brady. And I think maybe, that led to some of these things that Joe Brady did that kind of pissed us all off, right? Or he's like, okay, well, I got to run a 12-play drive here. So, that screenplay didn't work. So they don't think it's coming again. So we're going to run it again. Cause to try to double, reverse psychology, the defense, and then it doesn't work again. It's like, oh shoot. But I'm only doing this cause now I'm filling plays cause it had to be a 7-minute drive. Right. So, maybe that takes a little overthinking out of it for him, right? Where he won't have time to get into his head like that. He won't have time to double or triple check all his decisions. It's just going to be, this is what we're doing. Let's go. And then I got to move and check this defense. I got to move and check, so I think maybe a little off of him in the fact of like he's not solely focused tunnel visioned on this. It's got to be a 12 play drive. Might just more off the cuff. Let's run this, and I don't have time to really get into my head and reverse psychology.
Make it a little bit more free.
Yeah, we're just running it. So there was definitely regulation to him, and definitely guardrails, which I'm not upset with, by any means. But how tight were those guardrails, and what type of person different is Joe Brady going to be without him on?
Yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see for sure as we transition. They hire Pete Carmichael today to be his OC. Brady has already come out and said that he's going to call plays, so expect that. Some people on Twitter were mad about the hire for OC. I'm like, I don't care who the OC is, because the head coach is going to be calling the plays, and that's really what I wanted. I wanted the head coach to walk with Josh and to have that relationship with him where we're not churning through offensive coordinators. Now, as we transition, DT, on the defensive side of the ball, he said everything that you're supposed to say. I want to be aggressive. Sure. I want them to react to us. I want them to, be fearful of playing the Buffalo Bills, not the other way around. He wants an attacking style defense. Some names out there, they're talking about, former player for us, Jim Leonard, who's out there in Denver under Peyton and under Vance Joseph, who's had a couple interviews as well with some other teams. I know that Jim Schwartz is not happy in Cleveland, that they looked him and hired Todd Monken to be a head coach, which was just laughable because, I don't know. Not that there's anything against Todd Monken, but you had all these different young guys that you could choose from. Even Udinsky was on there, and until he pulls his name out, then there's this report that they wanted the guys to take tests and all this other shit. And like, what? You're the fucking Cleveland Browns. Like, why am I taking a test? Come on, man. Like, it's just read the room. Like, you know what I mean? You need a good coach. Like, you shouldn't be trying to make it harder to get a good coach. So it's just funny. But now Schwartz, who is familiar with the Buffalo Bills, maybe could come back if he can get out of that contract. I think that it's going to be important for him to bring in somebody that's a veteran that knows what he's doing. I don't think that it should be another first timer. I know that Jim Leonard is interesting with it when it comes to that, but I'd like to see a Raheem Morris or a Jim Schwartz, somebody that's done it before, and just let him run the reins and have the defense. That is the number one thing about the offensive coach that I'm so happy about, regardless of who it was that we will not be churning over OCs anymore, whether they were good at their job or whether they were bad at their job. You were going to be changing over an OC every 2-3 years. Now we can stop that as long as Brady is successful. I think it's going to be important who he finds for defensive coordinator, but I do think that it could be a different looking defense. It definitely is not going to – I don't think it's going to be just bend but don't break, as we always have seen.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I think, we wanted change. We talk about change. Well, if we look a little closer, Mafia, Nickel City Crew, like let's look at a complete flop on this, right? You look Sean McDermott, the older, stoic, defensive-minded, two young, up-and-coming coordinators, right? Now, let's flip that. Now we have the offensive-minded, young head coach. Let's get those veteran coordinators to kind of back him up and keep him in check and kind of teach him along the way of things like this is how it's done. And with Carmichael, he's been a coach for years, and he was the OC and all the way back with Drew Brees, I think in San Diego, with the Saints for a while with that, and Sean Payton called all those plays while he was the offensive coordinator. So this dude is very comfortable coming in and not being able to call plays, but definitely has an understanding of how an offensive coordinator needs to be rolled. And I think, I don't know who his head coaches were, if he had to help a younger coach along the way or anything like that. I didn't look that deep into him. But I think, if we want to see the change, let's see the whole flop here of old defensive-minded coach, young up-and-coming coordinators, flip that, young offensive coach, now stoic, experienced coordinators to come help him and get his back a little in that. And they did that on the offensive side. We'll see what happens on the defensive side. But with the way the defense looks, yes, I think it is going to change. I think, something has to be said about putting this much capital into the defensive side of the ball and really seeing no change, year in and year out. Like, we're throwing guys out. Like, drafting everybody,
Preach.
signing guys, throwing people into this defense, and it looks exactly the same each and every year, right? So I think talking about being a yes man and following the alignment of Brandon Beane's probably like, bro, I'm throwing 40 people a year at this defense, and we're not seeing anything different. So let's change up some scheme. Let's try to get who we got on this defense a lot more impactful. And I think that, because there is young guys kind of all the way around, that if we find their potential, we could be good. But there's also guys out there that are playmakers and we have contracts for and are paid that you don't even know are out on the field, majority of the time. So I think the defense needs to look different. I think it needs to, fit into, like, we have personnel. Let's do something else to see if this personnel plays better in this, because we keep throwing all these resources at it and it looks exactly the same. So I'm excited to see the little difference in that. I also think there's a vibe on the defensive side of the ball with Joe Brady's confidence on the offensive side. As again, opposite of Sean McDermott. Sean McDermott maybe didn't trust the offense enough, so he kind of bottled them up, and then we're gonna win it on defense. On this side, I think the mentality is swift into what we've kind of been talking about. Like, let's go out and just score 40. Like, screw them. Like, they gotta, they gotta come score on us. And if we are aggressive and not playing that bend don't break and 15 yards off the receiver on third down when we blitz the first and second, and then we play prevent defense and they convert third and longs twice, on a winning drive in the last game of the season.
Oh man.
Like, I think maybe we see more aggressive. What happens with more aggressive? Your risk increases to get burned more. But I think that swaggerness of Joe Brady says, well, screw it. If we get burned, we're just going to go get 7 with 17. Like, fuck it. So I think we will see a different look on the defense. We will see it a lot more aggressive. Not that he doesn't care about it, but I think, let's try to be more aggressive, try different personnel, see if we can get a playmaker in here we already have. And if we get burned a few times, that's on me to get the offense rolling to make up for it.
Yeah, it'll be interesting because, and not only is that you could get burnt, but, you can force the offense to make some mistakes as well. There's a flip side to that coin as well, that sometimes, chaos can create confusion. So sometimes when you're blitzing or you're being aggressive and you're disguising coverages, which McDermott was good at disguising coverages, but it was just very, very vanilla. It was very, very, like you said, it was just sit back too many times. And we've seen it over and over again. So which is why I was never mad that McDermott was gone. I wanted them to do the right things after he was gone. And it'll be interesting to see how it works from here on out, because I don't think that aggressive means that you just have to get burnt. You can also cause some fuck ups for the offense as well. So it'll be interesting. Now, as we begin to transition and wrap up tonight, DT, I wanted to kind of get a season 6 preview. We will be done, Nickel City Crew, till, I don't know, man. It'll take a Justin Jefferson type surprise trade for us to get back.
Oh, new GM over there now.
Yeah. We're gonna go ahead on and relax a little bit, stretch our feet. I've got no interest in the Super Bowl and what happens. I just saw this come across before we started that the Seahawks are going up for sale after the Super Bowl, and that they could go for $7 to $8 billion. And I'm like, man, talk about striking when the iron is hot. Like, that's a perfect time to sell.
Sell high, baby. Yeah, sell high. Buy low, sell high.
It just made me chuckle. So we'll all pray that Seattle wins and we don't have to listen to Patriots fan all off season long talking their shit. But after this, we're going to just go ahead and just relax a little bit. We will be back at you guys. You guys know the DT and I are not huge draft guys. We usually, I already know I'm definitely a guy who's on my team. All right, what's his name? How do you spell his last name? All right, let me go to YouTube and watch some highlights. That's kind of what I am. Yeah. Like, I don't get caught up in the minutia, and I know that some people do, and that's to each his own. I know that there's a bunch of draft coverage, and it's definitely consumed. But we're gonna chill out. We will be back at you guys the start of season 6, right around the draft, right around OTAs, stuff like that. Start getting ramped up, and we'll be back for season 6. But as we wrap up season 5, DT, I wanted to get a preview. What do you think are going to be some of the tent poles that Joe Brady is looking for? We talked about aggressiveness. We talked about his attitude, different things like that. We even talked about how I'm worried about, Brandon Beane and him understanding and realizing this wide receiver room is really, really in bad shape. What are you looking for to see some of the things throughout this offseason as we look at it from afar that'll kind of give us some tells that Brady's getting what he wants to a lesser degree?
Well, good news today. Salary cap comes out, and
Yes,
obviously it increases.
yes,
Increases every year, but
yes. So Bree, stop
increases a
telling us that you
decent.
got to save money.
Yeah,
God, I'm so sick of him telling us that shit.
yeah, and a decent amount increase. So that's going to
Yep.
help out a lot. So I think he's going to look, strictly to have that mentality of that new face, that new vibe, like almost overcompensate, because now the criticism is so heavily like we need a change. Well, then where was the change? I said it. I texted you this today. It was like it's like shitting your pants and changing your shirt. Like what did we really change? But as we broke down, a little tonight, like there is a lot more change, than to the naked eye. Like right out of the gate, yes, we know the name Joe
Sure.
Brady, but once we kind of broke it down there, it's going to look completely different. It's completely opposite of what Sean McDermott was. It's young, offensive. So I think he's going to really, try to put that, effort into making the change, and it's a tricky line because you don't want to overcompensate to just do it. Like, see, we're changing, but it's like way too in the other direction, and it gets wonky. But I think he's really going to put his stuff, into it, and really put his energy into making a new identity for this team. That's going to come with, I think, a lot. You're going to see, just with salary cap purposes, there's going to be a lot of different names on this team next year. These guys we're paying too much money for that aren't contributing to the squad are going to have to get restructured, are going to have to go, and other people are going to have to come in. So I think that's how it's going to kind of start. And then, that mentality, which I really liked what he was saying about, because that's kind of where I get to, like, and where I was in the playoffs and matchups, and the Jaguars they match up so much better than us, all that bullshit. Roll the ball out and play, baby. Like, roll the ball out and play. And we have proven, and 17 has proven, wherever that ball rolls out, he's in the game no matter what, right? So that's still going to be the case. But that fact of you got to play us, and that is different from the mentality of like, well, it's trust the process. It's the Bills way, and it really doesn't matter outside forces. This is like, I can know who you are, but you got to play us, and so I'm looking forward to that type of energy being jolted into this community and into this team, and the continuity piece of, use that to your advantage. The team already respects you. The team already knows you, so you don't have to go in there and kiss ass to anybody, right?
No.
Like
No.
you like maybe be cool if that's whatever. But
I know
the rest of the staff go in there, and you don't have to kiss ass to anybody. So I'm looking forward to practice what you preach here. Let's see that change. Let's see that energy. We're gonna see some roster movement. Hopefully we get a receiver. I mean, they were breaking down on GR today how quickly we could not get a receiver and just kind of wade in what we have and say, well, this is good enough, but we need something to change in that regard. I don't care. I hope we don't draft. Trade the draft. Screw it. Like what
do you mean? What do you mean by that? What do you mean?
I want to trade draft picks for a playmaker. Yeah. I don't need to draft anybody this year.
I mean, but yeah, well, it depends on who you're trading for, because it would depend. I mean, if it's Justin Jefferson, obviously, but
sure, I'm talking playmaker. I'm talking playmaker, or move up and trade to get that guy that's that we've been missing on in that 15, 16, 17 that is all pro receivers all over the league, this year. So I'm looking forward to the new energy. I'm looking forward to Joe Brady putting that type of mentality into this team. And I think the organization knows they kind of fucked up last week and knows the temperature is really hot. And they're going to really be trying hard to win us back in the next couple months of building that. I got that playmaker. We got that receiver now. Yeah. And then by the time all that's said and done, we're going to forget about how pissed off we were, and we're going to get excited to roll again. And so I think they're going to really try to overcompensate this energy to reel us back in a little bit. And I'm for that.
Those PSL payments are due.
And that's the thing. That's like where I'll stand on my soapbox of like being, a little perturbed by the way that was handled last week, because it felt like Pagula and Bean versus everyone. Pagula and Bean versus the Mafia. Yeah, and you guys are idiots. You don't know, you don't know what you're talking about. And yet ask Daquan Jones how that went for him last week. So that is, it's just not like the people that literally paid to build this stadium, the people that kids might not go to college because they had to pay for a seat. in this stadium, why don't you ease up with, telling us we're idiots and, you run the team and everything, right? So that's kind of the volume right now, and they need to change that. And they're going to use Joe Brady as the pawn piece to change that. And, I'm for it. I was pretty worked up this week, but that press conference, got me, okay, I liked it. I like the energy. And there's some things I take, right? The continuity piece was something I really overlooked that is crucial. Like, we really don't have time for a coach to come in here and learn the whole building and learn the players and build a relationship with Josh Allen. And then if it week 7, 8, 9, and it's like, okay, now the coach is finally familiar with everybody and we're 4-4 or some bullshit. We don't have time for that. We got to get it rolling. And it's the game of inches. We need that inch. So that continuity of Joe Brady knowing we need that inch because he was there, he saw it, but already having the respect of the whole building, I think that's going to go leaps and bounds. Stuff I didn't really think about that now I kind of sit back and say, okay, like that's gonna be helpful. That's not gonna hurt us in the fact of he knows people and he's familiar with the team. But that's gonna be helpful in the fact of he's already a step ahead when it comes to that.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny that you had said that because I was thinking the same thing. Like, it's when you start disrespecting the fans, that's when things kind of go sideways. So I think that Brady, he is so opposite of McDermott that it actually could kind of work. You know what I mean? Like, where it's not going to be just a whole thing about a yes man type of thing or whatever the case may be, or you guys don't know what you're talking about. We're like. That press conference was so bad for some of those reasons because I don't like to be talked down to. I don't like to be treated like I'm, like I'm not smart or like I'm less than or whatever the case may be. And what does Pagula know? Like he's a business billionaire. Like this is his toy. So like, don't tell me about about the personnel. You know what Brandon Beane is telling you about the personnel. So give me a break. You don't do draft evaluation. So I think that it's very important it was very important for them to get a guy that somebody can get behind. It seems like Brady is going to be that guy. I don't have any problems with him or anything like that. I wanted it to make sure that it was exhaustive. I understand why they didn't wait for Clint Kubiak and to talk with him with the Super Bowl and the way that the rules are set up. I get all of that type of stuff. You got staffs that need to be filled and different things like that. So I understand it. I think that it was a real process. Some people were bitching that, well, they didn't interview anybody twice. Well, if you're in there for fucking 3 hours, like, you know what I mean? Like, or 4 hours, like, well, why do you need to talk to them twice? You know what I mean? Like, you go through it, you talk to all the guys, and then you get in the room and you start to think about what you want to do. So I didn't have any problem with the search. I think that it was exhaustive. I think that it was real. I don't think that Brady was the clubhouse leader or anything like that. But I do think that the continuity piece, I think that we all might have like underplayed it because you hit it on the head. We don't even you got to acclimate this guy to Buffalo, what kind of fan base we are, all that type of stuff. Unless it was going to be Dable, all of them were going to have a learning curve. Yeah. All of them were going to have to figure out what to say, what not to say. Ranch blue cheese, and I know that that's just a joke, but no,
that's serious. Like that's a great point. Yeah,
like everything on down. Like you're going to have to figure out this fan base and how we tick and how we play because we're an educated fan base. Both Bills and Sabres, we know our shit. We know our football. We know our hockey. So you can't really bullshit us in that respect. And I think that that's what pissed a lot of people off with that press conference last week because we all see the roster. Mm-hmm. We all know that we need help. And I'm just praying that Brandon Beane is just kind of just swept up in ego and he's just talking shit out there and he wants to talk shit. As long as he does the right things, then I'm fine. Because like I said, we've given out examples of Amari Cooper and trying to trade for Jalen Waddle last year that he realizes he could talk shit, but he realizes he knows what's going on. And I love that point you made earlier in the show about there's no really where else for him to hide. I don't care if you sit next to the owner for the games while the team is playing. Eventually he's going to look at you because you already fired a successful head coach that was getting us to a certain level and couldn't get us above. You can't keep telling me that you're supplying the groceries and that the chef is fucked up. Not after every meal. Not now. I mean, maybe 1 or 2 meals you can get away with that. Like, man, that's crazy that he didn't know how to cook. Like, I don't know. I got him the freshest produce and the greatest meats, and they were all USDA. And then, but every meal at the end of the season, it just tastes wrong, and it's just weird. So I think that you're absolutely right that he is eventually going to be on the hot seat as well, and I think that he knows that. I do think that he knows that.
Yeah, and to stay on brand here, Nickel City Crew, I'm the homer, the optimist. Sometimes have been, accused of having rose-colored glasses of this organization, and I hand up on that. Like, definitely, I have been a little unreasonable at times. But my homer review of this situation is, it is a new look. We underplayed the continuity piece that is going to be crucial. we have to know that this dude is going to be learning so much. There's just going to be defaults he goes to, and the
Sure.
defaults he goes to are what he's going to know, what was taught to him from Sean McDermott, right?
Yeah,
So I think there is going to be some regulation. There is going to be that detail orientation. There is going to be the tightness of it, but with Joe Brady's energy and different look, all the way around. So we're not losing everything, that we were like, well, Sean didn't get us over the hump, but we liked how consistent it was. I think we are still going to see some of that consistency, but there's going to be a new look to it. I mean, if you really want to dig in here, Joe Brady having a top 5 offense the last 3 years with the roster that we think is booty cheeks.
That's kind of
yeah. If we better get a receiver this year, or the fire's just going to keep burning more than it already is. So if he gets some better personnel, how good can Joe Brady do with a little better personnel? If he was that good with a shit roster, what can he do with a good roster? And that's obviously very Homer-esque there.
No, but that's the truth.
I think we got to look at the definitely, that's something I underplayed heavily, was the continuity piece, and seeing that up at the podium yesterday, the way he's looking over at the team, the way he's addressing the players, like he's already there. He's already in it. Like they are, like these dudes after a heartbreaking loss are here in Buffalo still, sitting in this press conference on a Wednesday afternoon. Josh Allen on crutches, in this press conference on a Thursday afternoon. Like so like that really spoke to me, like just to him, that look over to the team. Okay, he's there. Like it's not coach talk. Like we're going to rally together. We love each other. And that, like, it wasn't that. It was truly connected. He truly is connected. And that's something I downplayed. So looking forward to all those positive pieces. And, hopefully we add a piece. And then what can you do with a little better team? Alleviate a little off Josh. I mean, you said make Josh's life easier.
That's right.
Standing at that press conference and looking over at your, the lifetime quarterback of the Buffalo Bills on crutches, that can't happen, right? This dude can't be on crutches. Yes, we escaped out of it a little bit. Yes, it's not going to lead to any more, issues, hopefully.
But that should be a wake-up call.
Yes. Listen, I don't want to ever see that dude on crutches, right? So let's make it easier for him. I'm already connected with the team. I have proven track record with offense. Give me another piece. Let's see what we can do. Let me put a new vibe on this whole team, but it's still the same continuity, that we're not going to have to learn. So that's kind of where I'm at with it right now.
No, I agree. As we wrap up tonight, I think that it's a new direction, but not fading away from what has gotten us there. So if Brady actually talked about it, he said McDermott laid this foundation, and it's funny that Brady had to be the first motherfucker that had to give McDermott any credit.
Some credit,
it's just ironic that like nobody, Bean and Pagula, it was like for them to say anything nice about the guy. And I'm the biggest McDermott hater out here in the Mafia that I know of, and I could even like say like, well, he did a great job. And I said this year was his best year coaching the defense because of the injuries and everything that he had to deal with. So it was just ironic and funny. But yeah, we're getting a new direction, but not forgetting the past. And I think that is one of the best things, that it's kind of the best of both worlds, to be honest. I thought that Dable provided that same thing. And and obviously they might have been worried about the temperament or whatever the case may be, and can he keep his shit together on the sidelines and stuff like that. And maybe that was part of it. But Brady's fiery too, so I don't mind a fiery coach. I don't mind a coach that is emotional. I know that everybody used to get mad that all McDermott does is clap, and that would drive us fucking crazy because it didn't matter the situation. All he's gonna do is just do that stupid clap. I get it. Brady's definitely more fiery than that, so I think that it's enough different to give Bills Mafia a different flavor, but it's still ice cream. It's just a different flavor of ice cream. We're still eating ice cream. You know what I mean? So I think that will help us in the transition as these months go along. Well, it's been fun, DT. It's funny because you are the eternal optimist, and every year you may not say that we're winning the Super Bowl every year, but you got us in the damn game. You got us in the show. And I respect that about you. I love that about you because you don't waver on that. And I love that energy about you. And it's really what makes us good, because we're the yin and the yang. I'm always going to give it to you straight. I'm going to tell you how shit could fuck up, how we could crash this thing, how Titanic could happen. You may not see the iceberg, but I see it. I'm up at the top of the boat, and I'm like, man, you need to look out over here because there's a big-ass iceberg. So I think that we work well with each other for that. And I just wanted to just say that I love you, man. Season 5, as we wrap up, I couldn't pick anybody better to be my co-host. I couldn't think of anybody that I'd want to do the show with. And DT said it right. It was a couple shows in episode 1. Please don't go back in the archive because the show sounds totally horrible back then. But it's funny. About 7 episodes in, I was just like, you know what? Come on. And then I asked him, come on again, and then come on again. I'm like, what the fuck am I doing? You might as well just be my co-host. If you don't have anything to do weekly, just come on and be my co-host. So I just wanted to let you know that I love you, man. You are my Bill's brother from another mother, man. I would not trade you for anything. And I am really I'm excited about the following, DT. I know that you're not plugged in on all the social medias, but boy, Nickel City Crew is gaining some traffic. We've got listeners. They reach out to me now. We're getting new listeners, it seems like every week, where somebody's hit me up on Instagram or hit me up on Facebook and saying they love the show. This was their first time listening. So just shout out to all of you guys. I can't go through the whole list, but you guys know who you are. From the OGs like Noah and Josh Kluhl to the newcomers like, my boy Zach Ransom and my boy Nick Del Novo from literal kindergarten and Paulette Brown, who hits me up all the time. We appreciate you guys listening. We really do. Again, we are going to take some time off. And we'll be back at you guys sometime around the draft. Just don't hold me to it. It'll be sometime around the draft, unless there's some crazy free agent signing.
When we get Justin Jefferson, then we'll be back.
When we get Justin. Yeah, it's funny. I had some Minnesota fan cussed me out. He was like, "Oh, you Bills Mafia fans get on my nerve. We're not trading." He was Minnesota. We're not trading Justin Jefferson. And the cap, I was like, I don't know. I'm like, he seemed pretty frustrated last year. Shut the fuck up. Shut the fuck up. Are you a dumb ass? Do you not know how the cap works with dead cap? I'm like, I don't know, JJ McCarthy. Until you get a new quarterback, I'm gonna keep circling. Oh, it was so funny to interact with this dude. He was just losing his shit. So it was funny as hell, man. DT, your last words on season 5. I'd had a blast, man. The trip down here was amazing. All of it, man. You and Brett coming down there was just awesome. I've had a great season. Like I said last week, I gambled on the Ralph. I thought we were going to have a home playoff game, and I played myself on that one, but it's all good. I'm really happy that you got a chance to get there before the season ended, and you were up there for a few games, but I will be there for the christening of the home opener at that new stadium. I will not miss it for anything in the world. I'd buy my tickets now if I could on StubHub. I will not miss it, man.
Yes, sir. It's not going to be that Thursday night, unfortunately, but it's going to be a good one. It's going to be a good one. I can't wait to walk up in there with you, Rob. Yeah, I love you, man. This was a great year. Season 5, I can't how fast 5 years goes, and it doesn't feel like we do much different, but like you said, when we go back to those first episodes, the difference of everything in our flow and what we do, and again, this is like we do this, it's therapeutic, it's for you and I, and then we're definitely very grateful that we have people that have joined and followed, and our day ones, and Noah and all those guys out there that have never wavered from us. Like that speaks volumes to us and our connection, and I wouldn't rather do it with anybody else either. 5 years with the trip this year, that was great. Getting closer to your family, and like now we are, we definitely are locked in. Brothers. So I appreciate that, man. And in like shit, the quickest this 5 years went, just think 5 years from now we'll be in season 10. Hopefully with a few Lombardis, hopefully with a few Super Bowl parade videos, right? And really, keep building this to, what we really didn't envision it to be anything, but now we've kind of, worked into a vision of like, this is what we do. This is Nickel City Crew. And we've been, unapologetically ourselves the whole time. And I've appreciated it. I'm looking forward to, we get better and new additions every year. So looking forward to that in the future. And I just like, that's hitting me right now. 5 years ago, now 5 years from now will be season 10. And, obviously, hopefully we got some hardware in between, and, we just keep making memories, man. So I love it. I love it, Rob. I love you, man. I love everything about it. Thanks to everybody listening, and looking forward to continuing this journey.
Yeah, man. It well said. Shout out to my Twitter crew as well. I love boxing with y'all motherfuckers. Shout out to all of LeSean and Dale and Whittle and all those guys in those spaces. Those Rashid, who's been on the show a couple times. Like we love you guys as well. And I appreciate, because what you guys provide for me is a chance to get my takes out there, and then we yell about them, and y'all call me names, and I take it, and I love it, and I just love the banter. So shout out to my Twitter crew as well, man. And it's funny because I couldn't stand Twitter, didn't know anything about it in the very beginning. 5 years ago, wasn't even on social medias at all. And then shout out to Justice General, and shout out to the King. I mean, he told me listen, you have got to get on these social medias. That is the only way that you're going to be successful. And now Twitter is like my favorite. It's like my favorite pastime is to get on there and argue with these motherfuckers about the Bills. I absolutely love it. So listen, that is a wrap on season 5. Listen, out there, enjoy the off season. Again, root for the Seahawks. I don't think I have to tell you that, but everybody root for the Seahawks next week. Fuck the Pats. They suck. I can't believe that they came up in our rearview mirror and now they have passed us. It makes my blood boil, my Bills' blood boil that they have already passed us in that respect. So let's bring them back down to earth. They'll get their first place schedule next year, and they get a chance to actually see what life is really like with this bullshit fourth place schedule that they played this year. And we'll go into the offseason. I do like the Joe Brady hire after I got a chance to sit and kind of just think on it. And I'm excited for the future, DT. I always told everybody, stop worrying about fear. Stop operating in fear. Just because you fire all the McDermott supporters, well, if you fire McDermott, then what happened when you get? I'm like, it doesn't have to be bad. We didn't know McDermott was going to work out. So that's kind of been my tent pole. That's kind of been something that I stick to, is that we don't know the future. So because we don't know the future, we can't say ahead of time that it's not going to work out. So maybe this guy works out, DT. Maybe he's the next great thing. Maybe who knows, man? Maybe he is.
Well, at the very least, he has a nice Jordan 1 collection, and I like that about him. So yeah, I'm optimistic. Here it is. It's the Joe Brady era and maybe the Super Bowl era.
Yeah, I'm down with it, man. Listen, out there, Nickel City crew, spread love out there, please. All off season as we get through this cold winter, spread love out there, not hate. Listen, these were my Bills thoughts said out loud. For the last time in season 5, hit them with a Go Bills, DT. Hit them with a Go Bills, baby.
Go Bills. Go Bills. Thanks, everybody. Season 5. Go Bills.
Oh, man. I love it, man. Go Bills. I love it.